Of all, I'd like to welcome everybody here. I want to thank the fire chief in Liberty Township and the EMS, Chief Klusman. Where's he at? Right over here to the left. Westchester Police Chief, Chief Herzog. He's over here to my left. And the Hamilton Police Chief, Chief Buchheit, over here to my right. And the Springs Liberty Management of the facility where this all took place. They treat us very well for the past 30-some hours. In the cold, they fed us. The residents of Liberty Spring for allowing us to occupy some of their facilities, their apartments, and their areas so we could have our people stage. The citizens and residents, I'd like to thank them also. Basically what we've got, this incident took, we started with this on 1/12/2018 at 7:58. East Hamilton Place, apartment 921. At 11:27 p.m., the initial call was made by Eris Trammell, the mother, that a male in the apartment with a gun was demanding money. That was the initial call. At 11:38 p.m., cell contact was made with Donald Gazaway, the person inside. At 11:51 p.m., shots were fired inside. Evacuation of the other apartments that we heard shots inside. On 1/13/2018, 4 a.m. to 6 a.m., shots were being fired from inside. Gazaway was using the boy as a shield. At 6 a.m., the front door was breached. What that basically means is we took our vehicle, our armored vehicle, and we breached the front door. We pushed inside so we could see and make contact. At 7:47 p.m., the robot went inside. We heard shots fired. At that point, the robot stopped working. We believe the robot was shot. We don't know that for sure. The investigation is evolving as we talk. At 8:50, a throw foam was put in. At 9 a.m., visual contact, confirmation the child was being used as a shield. Everywhere he moved, he was using the child as a shield. At 11 a.m., Gazaway took the boy and went to the garage. Left the house, went to the garage. From 1 p.m. Saturday through the night until 6:36 a.m. on Sunday, negotiations continued. Negotiations was kind of messed up. He wouldn't use the phone that we'd throw him at times. He would be in the car in the back seat. He'd flash the lights, toot the horn. He'd run the car up into the bumper of the car that was in front of him. He was in the car behind. He had the car running for heat, and he was in the back seat of the vehicle. At 6:36, the hostage was released. The subject was in custody. At this point, I want to make some things clear, then we'll take some questions. Halfway through this incident, we realized that the Butler County Sheriff's Office, we didn't have the resources to continue a long-term hostage negotiations or something that was going to go on for days or hours. We could not know. We were in a tough situation with the 10-year-old. He wouldn't allow that 10-year-old to leave his sight. That was his protection. Anytime he moved, he used the 10-year-old. But we knew that we needed relief and we needed help. So these gentlemen up here, the chiefs from Hamilton, Liberty Township Fire, and Westchester, they were calling us. We didn't have to call them. And we made contact. The fire department, basically, if we're going to go in and we're going to have to, and there's a hostage, and we think there was maybe 20 or 30 rounds maybe fired. It's all evolving, and they were shooting at the police. We knew we were going to need life squads eventually when we went in, or if somebody got injured, or for the child. So the Liberty Township Life Squad and EMT, they were there, and to administer first aid if we needed it. Then they helped us with heat, and they helped us with a warming station, and they helped us with food. very important if you're in a long-term operation. You got to have food and water. You don't realize that the SWAT guys can dehydrate with all this equipment on. Because you're cold doesn't mean you can't dehydrate. So we have to drink a lot of water. So the fire department was there. So at the end or in the middle of it, if there was gunfire and there were some injuries, and they could also administer first aid to the police. Also, we asked Westchester to bring their entire SWAT and their vehicles, their command posts, to relieve our people. It was 1 degrees and the wind chill was very, very cold. And when you're standing outside with all that equipment on, and this guy would move us back, move us in, move us back, move us in, he would lead us to believe he was coming in and out. So we couldn't have made it. So it was a great relief to see the Westchester Police Department show up with their equipment and their personnel. Didn't take long for our people to get out, go back, get some sleep, and come back. At the same time, we made contact with the Hamilton Police Department. They agreed to bring their SWAT team in and their command vehicle. And with them, they replaced our people. It takes time when you're switching out teams like that. They have to be briefed, and there's a lot goes on behind the scenes. And when they get in and you turn the gavel over to them, and then you go home, and then you plan for the next day. But we're very fortunate that when these departments were there, that the guy came up and he gave up. And we didn't think at times we were going to get a good resolve from this. We felt that he wanted us to shoot him at different times. But we could not do anything. We couldn't breach, we couldn't come in, because anything that he done, any movement that he made was always with that child. And we could hear the child inside. He was crying, he was wanting to get out. But we were very fortunate. We had a good resolve. And at this point, I would like to introduce Chief Herzog from the Westchester Police Department.
Thank you, Sheriff. I'd just like to say in my 27 years in law enforcement, this proved to be one of the most difficult and challenging standoffs that I've seen or even been aware of, not only just involved in. But with that being said, the interoperability that we had and the connections that we had with our teams working in conjunction with each other was seamless. And hats off to you, Chief, and you, Sheriff, for the joint ventures we do. And that goes to as far as the commissioners with our radio system. We're all on the same radio system. So this proved very valuable that we were able to do those kinds of things. And just one other thing I wanted to, the Sheriff mentioned about the citizens. We had citizens give up their residence for our SWAT teams to warn in, to have observation posts. We had restaurants, White Castles, I think cooked 120 hamburgers for us, because we have to feed the officers when you're out there 30 hours. So things like that. I had a citizen that gave us a vehicle, got their vehicle that they do not drive in the winter and drove it to the scene because it was the exact same vehicle that was being utilized in the garage, and we used that vehicle to practice on. So those kinds of things from the community are greatly appreciated, and it's wonderful to be a part of Butler County. Sheriff?
Go ahead, Chief. Chief Bukai, Hamilton Police Chief.
Thanks, Sheriff. I just want to thank Sheriff Jones and his whole team, who did turn this over at some point, but they had personnel that were there on scene from start to finish, did a great job managing it. We're just happy that we could come in and help out. And I want to thank the operators who were out there in extremely harsh conditions. 30 hours, sub-freezing temperatures, single digits, below zero wind chill factor, and we're out there hour after hour for 30 hours. That and the negotiators who played a critical role in resolving this with no one being hurt. They did an outstanding job of being in constant communication, off and on, constantly trying to resolve this in a safe manner. They did an extraordinary job. It was just a great team effort by everybody involved, and appreciate the support of the community. Thank you.
Fire Chief, Liberty Township.
Fortunately, we get to play a pivotal role in the background, and thanks for having us out. Our job was just basically to provide EMS and support services, and fortunately today they weren't needed. And we have great admiration for the men and women that were out there for 30 hours. We got to sit in the comfort of our own ambulance and staff cars, but the Liberty residents, came to play ball. I mean, they give us food, they give us water, shelter, and it was impressive to see us come together. Communications was key. Even when Hamilton and Westchester took over, they let us know exactly what they needed from us, and we were able to provide it. Sheriff?
I want to explain to you the communications. Without these radios and communications, we talk about all being on the same channels. Then we learned that, your batteries go dead. The colder it is, your batteries don't last long. So we had a radio truck there, and we were issuing batteries and recharging batteries. And we've never been on an operation this long. I don't know that any of us have. I've never done it in 42 years, that we had one go so long. And we couldn't do anything but wait. And I want to thank the lady that let me use her restroom like 5 times that night. That was very important because I'm a lot older than these guys. So that was a very important issue. But we will take questions at this point.
Can we talk about, I know we talked with the family this morning, and the mom particularly talked about the fact that she knew this guy. This is somebody that they knew, they trusted. From what we've gathered, they think he may have been under the influence of something. Can you speak to that and how also that plays into negotiations? Because this is somebody who is known to the family. I'm sure maybe some trust there.
Usually they are known to the family. They're a family member or a family friend. And the way we understand it, that this lady supposedly knew this individual for a couple weeks and was a friend of the family, if you use the term friend loosely. As far as being intoxicated, at one point, we thought he was smoking a joint inside the car at one time. So, but remember, this investigation is evolving. Everybody up here and everybody that was out there, we still got a crime scene. We're trying to close that down. We've got charges on this individual where he's been charged, and you have copies of everything that he's been charged with. So it's evolving as we go, and we're not talking to the child at this point. He went to the hospital, but when you see the child come out, and you see the police and the life squad people giving him water and donuts, it almost makes you tear up. It's a heck of a scene to see that, and in his pajamas, and he's happy. And he's got a coat on. I don't know if it was a fireman coat or a police coat. Hopefully it was a police coat. And we're always messing with the fire guys. But hopefully he's not traumatized by this, and he learns that we were there to help. So that's a long answer, but that's the best we can do at this point. It's all evolving, and it can change as we speak.
The details are disturbing, considering the fact that he was using the child as a shield. How does that play into how you respond? Because I'm sure you have to approach this very carefully because the child is not only in the home, but also being used as a shield as he's trying to move about the place.
That definitely changes the dynamics of the standoff. Having a hostage, and especially a hostage of this age and a child. And I can tell you that I know that probably without exception, every officer, every operator that was out there is a parent. And a lot of those operators they have their own children at home about this age. So everybody knew just what was at stake, how important this was, and I think that really helped, keep these folks going through some very difficult, long hours, very difficult conditions, and that and knowing how many other great people. This was a big apartment complex. There was a lot of people there. And so not just focusing on this suspect and rescuing the hostage that he had, but making sure that he didn't hurt anybody else out there at the scene. So,
given the fact that he was firing at law enforcement, seems like throughout this entire thing his attitude kept fluctuating. You didn't know how this was going to end. How do you deal with that? I mean, what do you think prompted him to eventually surrender and things ending as peacefully as they did?
I'll credit the negotiators with that. Like I said, I think they did an outstanding job of talking to this gentleman, negotiating, keeping him calm, and just building a rapport with him. And over enough time, I think that finally wore him down, and he was out of options. He was in the car was running, he was getting low on gas. Like I said, it's in the single digits, it's cold, and eventually he just wore down and gave up.
Was the concern there too for that car running inside of the garage? it being an
We had taken
explosive?
measures to make sure that everybody was safe, so we had accounted for that. And there were a lot of variables, a lot of contingencies that we had to account for. And again, for Westchester SWAT, Butler County Sheriff's Office, and Hamilton PD, I witnessed it firsthand. They did an outstanding job taking all that into consideration, making sure everybody in that facility was safe, and looking out for this young man's best interest. They did an outstanding job.
Any more questions?
Do you have a ballpark estimate of how many personnel have to be used across all departments and entities?
Chief, come on up. You got that one.
I know, I can't give you a total of, I would say throughout the whole operation was over, well over 100. I know when this thing ended, we were about 55 to 60 personnel that were on site at that particular time. So when you factor in us, the sheriff rotating out and us rotating in, we were over 100 officers and firefighters were involved in this.
Considering how many shots were believed to have been fired, do you know how heavily armed he was inside of the home?
At this point, we're still investigating that. Sheriff's Department's teams doing their evidence technicians and canvassing and that, and trying to determine how armed he was and how prepared he was.
How did the initial call-in come in? Why were police out there first?
We just mentioned that in
Yeah.
the very beginning. We said we received a 911 call from the lady that was inside. And we got the 911 call. We got there. There was a person inside that had a gun and had taken a hostage or child. So we said that in the very beginning.
My bad.
Okay, we'll forgive you this time. Go ahead. One more question.
Multiple neighbors told us about the woman knocking on doors, being asked to be let in about 11:30 Friday night after an altercation, and there was blood on the doors, which was visible this morning as well. Is there any indication that she was treated at the scene for any of her injuries?
Well, everything is under investigation right now. It's evolving as we talk, so we can't release any more information about what's going on right now. This will take a couple more days, and then we've got the court system. When the chiefs were talking about personnel, that doesn't count. You still got to manage your own police departments and your fire departments. There's only so many life squads you can have there, and apparatus and police cars, and then we still got to manage and relieve our other duties, and we've got dispatching. So I've never seen anything like this, and I've got calls, and so have these guys, from other larger agencies, and there is no contingency for this other than we're very fortunate. We all know each other, and we all talk and we communicate, which made this. You got to ask for help, but we didn't have to. They called us. That'll end the news conference at this time. If you have any questions, we'll stay over, okay? Thank you, guys.